Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hunter Base Podcast. Remember what hunters do when they're not hunting mavericks? They go back to the base, recharge, and shoot the shit. I'm your host of the most, Zeromaster, and today I have a very special guest with me.
Eski I just subscribed for 53 months.
Thanks for interrupting my intro, asshole. What, you're not going to say anything now? You're just going to sit there?
I farted and a poopy almost slipped out.
As most of you probably know, my guest tonight is the one, the only Eski I.
Hello.
And you really had to interrupt my intro like that. 51 episodes has never happened. It had to happen on episode 52.
Had to happen eventually.
So, well, since you did that, and since we started the show here, and why don't you explain to the people who don't know who you are in your own words?
Damn, that's real unfortunate that y'all don't know who I am. Hello, everybody. My name is Eski I. I am a sometimes VTuber who is trying to get his schedule together. I recently have been doing mostly Pokemon-related content, and everybody is joking that I am slowly but surely becoming a PokeTuber. And for the most part, it's just games. Sometimes I draw, sometimes I do stupid. And if you want someone to laugh at and someone to laugh with, I'm your guy.
And it's ironic that you that you mentioned slowly becoming a PokeTuber, because literally what we're talking about tonight is Pokemon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Basically, what just to break it down before we get into the thick of it, when we say we're here to talk about Pokemon, we're going to talk about Pokemon in general. Like, we'll probably start off with talking about how we got into it, you know, where the franchise has gone, where it is now, and what maybe we can expect in the future, our things we like, criticisms we have, stuff like that. It's going to be basically a general discussion. No real plan, but the order is basically going to start out kind of how I said it, and we'll just go from there, kind of thing. And I guess to get started, I should ask, so I know the story because you told me, and you know my story because I told you, but we haven't generally told the audience. So why don't we start off and why don't you tell everybody how you got into Pokemon?
All right. So, excuse me.
Your excuse.
When I was just an itty bitty babby devil, I got a copy of Silver, like the original Silver, and I played that a bunch, and it was one of my first Game Boy games, and I loved the hell out of it. And I was so big into Pokemon because not only was I playing the game, I was also, you know, getting up early in the morning for watching the show on TV. I had a Pokemon lunchbox, I had plushies, I had all kinds of merchandise. So a friend of the family, their son gave me Yellow, which was like a big deal for me because it was a version of the first game that was heavily changed to reflect the anime. So I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is that thing from the show, and this is the thing from that episode, and oh. And I was pretty much hooked after that, but things really came home for me once I got into Gen 3 and got a hold of Ruby, because that's when my brain was like getting a grip on how video games worked, and when I started to retain memories better. Mm-hmm. So once it got its hooks into me in Gen 3, I was a lifelong fan.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like we mentioned before, there's a bit of an age gap between us. Not like a huge age gap, but like enough that it spans, like we grew up in close to the same decade. I think they're like we're more than a half a decade apart, like if I recall, because you're in your early 30s, I'm in my late 30s. And so, and I was an 80s baby, and I assume you were a 90s baby. Is that right?
94.
Okay, yeah. So, and I'm 88. So there's about a 6-year difference between the two of us. So,
yep.
So it's interesting how things came out, because 94 was just a couple years before Pokemon came over here, because I believe it was 96. Yeah. Because, we're hitting up the 30th anniversary, I want to say, of Pokemon.
Correct.
I think, this year would be the 30th anniversary. I think it's actually next month, because it's February, I think, that the games came out. here?
Oh, wow.
Remember. I can't remember. But my story, and I've told this before on my streams and stuff, but I'll just tell everybody for the podcast because there might be some people who only watch the YouTube channel for the podcast, and that's why I had you reintroduce yourself, because you have never been on the channel that I put my podcast on, which is Zeromaster Reviews. I don't think you've ever been on there, so this is your first time being on this channel and podcast. Anyways, long story short, for me, one year Santa, because Santa didn't wrap Christmas presents, only my parents did. Santa brought my brother and I each a Play It Loud Game Boy, which, if you don't know what that is, it's the original Game Boy shell, but they had re-released them in different colors. So I got a green one, and my brother got a yellow one. And then we each got a couple of games. I got Raging Fighter, and I got Pokemon Red. And my brother, I can't remember what the other game he got was. I think it was Kicks. Might have been Kicks. And Operation C, which is the Contra game for Game Boy. Now, I always say this. Operation C is a great game, but it was not Pokemon. So Pokemon was a craze. I believe we had just started getting into it when we got those. So anyways, my brother and I fought over Pokemon Red until eventually, like, I think a little bit later, they bought him Pokemon Blue so he could have his own game. Because I don't think my parents realized that these are games that they have one save file, and they're meant to be, played with other friends and people who have other versions of the game. So eventually he got Blue. So I started with Red, and so that's how I really got started with the start of the craze. Because I think, what was it? We got our Super Nintendo in '95, I believe, because they did the Donkey Kong Country bundle. It was like near the end of the Super Nintendo's life. They did this bundle, and then shortly after we got the Super Game Boy, because my brother and I both had Game Boy games, and we could play them on the Super Nintendo with the Super Game Boy. So, and I believe we got the Super Game Boy before I got Pokemon, or maybe it was the same Christmas, because I recalled taking the Super Game Boy and Pokemon to my grandparents' place because my grandmother had a Super Nintendo, and I was playing Pokemon in there by myself when all my other cousins were out doing other things because I just wanted to play Pokemon. The next thing I want to kind of go on is how we kind of grew with Pokemon. So, like, for me, I thought level 50 was the cap in Pokemon because I just remember spending so much time trying to get my Charizard over level 50, and it didn't happen. And so I thought I would have been like 96. I would have been like, it might have been 97. I'm not sure, but I would have been like 8 or 9. And I think in my brain, I was like, excuse me. I was like, maybe I made a mistake. Let me start the game over and try this again. And so I caught other Pokemon, but like I was mostly training Charizard, and like he was level 50 and I was on Cycling Road and he wasn't gaining any more levels. And I was like, what's going on? Why am I not getting it? It just turns out that he needed so much experience that he wouldn't, whatever. So anyways, restarted the game, spelt my name wrong. I thought an O was a Q was an O. And that file that I misspelled my name was the first time I caught all 151 Pokemon. And I don't know about you, but I knew about the cloning in Gen 1, like how you clone Pokemon using trading. And so a kid at my elementary school took a trip to New York, and he went to the New York Pokemon Center. And back then, that was the only legit way to get a Mew. So he had a Mew. I
remember that.
He had a level 100 Mew, and he just cloned it to everybody. Everybody had this level 100 Mew, and I think I still have a copy of it on my Pokemon Stadium cartridge to this day. Like, if I fire it up, I might still find that original Mew that I have. And so, yeah, I have an original Pokemon Center Mew and everybody had it, and oh man, it's like, it was the best thing ever to finally be able to get that Pokemon. And speaking of that, my school, at least anyways, I'm sure maybe it was at your school. I don't know. It depends. Pokemon cards were huge. Huge. Like, nobody knew how to play the game. We just collected the cards and we thought they were cool. Do you have any experience with collecting Pokemon cards?
I used to collect them a lot for myself, and uh, just getting into a little bit of my past, I was one of the kids who was like made fun of and kind of an outsider. So
Oh, me too. But
the two or three of us that were in that sort of group would come together and we'd mess around with Pokemon cards and trade them and try to play and whatnot. And I had a binder full of cards. I don't remember what we did with it. It might still be in this house somewhere.
Mhm.
It might be in someone else's house. I genuinely don't remember what we did with it, but there was something I wanted to bring up when you mentioned the Mew, and it's very funny and amusing to me how somebody's
Amusing.
early experience. It's very funny to me how somebody's experience early on with trading can really color their perception of
Mhm.
like trade Pokemon in general. Because me personally, I understand why they're in the game, but I hate trade evolutions with every fiber of my being. Because when I was young, I was in an after school daycare system, so I would go before and after school and during the summer and everything, and I would chill there until my parents got off of work to pick me up. And it was a very horribly organized daycare system because they had like pre-K in one room, they had kindergarten kids in another, and then they stuffed the first all the way through the fifth graders in another room, which was just a breeding ground for the worst kind of bullying because all the older kids picked on all the smaller kids.
Mm.
So my history with trading is I would get like a Kadabra or a Haunter or something, and one of the older kids was like, "Hey, I'll trade that with you so you can evolve it." And so we get the link cable set up and everything. We trade it, and then as I'm about to ask for the Pokemon back after it evolved, they would yank the link cable out and steal my Pokemon.
Damn.
Yeah,
Too bad they didn't know about cloning, because then you could both have it.
I don't think they would have cared anyway. But
Because that's how you did it. You traded a Pokemon from one game, and then the one you wanted to clone, you unplugged the cable at the certain time, or you shut the game off
mhm.
during the saving, and it would clone the Pokemon. Because how it would work is the person who sent the Pokemon, their game would think they didn't do the trade, but the person who received it, they think their game would think they did the trade. So it would overwrite whatever you did. So
Oh,
I mean, they easily could have done that, but I guess they decided to be jerks.
yeah, they just wanted to be jerks.
You did remind me of
Same with
something.
Beyblades, but that's a different story.
Yeah. See, the other funny thing of us being from different eras is like my at school we had Pogs, those got banned. Magic cards, those
Yeah.
got banned. Pokemon cards, those eventually got
Mhm.
banned. Digimon cards, those got banned. Yu-Gi-Oh never got banned. So I think it was, or at least not until I was there, because I think I graduated in elementary school. So just to paint a picture, where I'm from in Canada, elementary school is from junior kindergarten all the way to eighth grade. We don't have middle school. It's
Mhm.
all one thing. So all those different things came out while I was in school, and we all did them. But I just remembered a story about the trading. Uh, this is probably no surprise to you, knowing that I'm Canadian. But I played hockey growing up, as did my brother,
No way.
in local leagues. But I didn't. It got to a point where, because I did hockey, baseball, and then I was doing taekwondo, and then eventually, my dad's like, "Okay, you can't do everything. You have to choose one." And I think I dropped hockey because it was my weakest sport. Let me put it this way: my dad used to offer my brother and I either $5 or a new Super Nintendo game, which he got from cash converters and paid only like $5-6 for, anyways.
Oh wow.
If we scored a goal, my brother was a defenseman, and he scored more goals than me as a left wing. So I just was never very good at hockey. In fact, I remember the one hockey goal I scored. The I got a breakaway. The goalie jumps on me. The puck slowly goes across the line, and I got the goal. It was the most hilarious thing. It was the most hilarious
Beautiful.
like after school special shit you'd ever seen. And I remember I finally got a video game out of it. But my brother got most of the video games growing up because he would score goals, and that was the thing that dad would give you. Score a goal, you get a video game, or $5. We always took the video games because we knew they cost more. But
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I remember this was when my brother had to do a hockey tournament on the weekend, and my mom worked. My mom worked at a hospital, and she would oftentimes have to work weekends. So I'd have to go with my dad and my brother to his hockey tournaments, and there was nothing really for me to do. So I would take my Game Boy and stuff. Well, this particular time, I took my Game Boy, my red and blue Pokemon official Nintendo Pokemon game guide, and my link cable with me, um, because it turns out a bunch of kids who were hanging out upstairs who were also there because their siblings were, doing it, happened to have their Game Boys and Pokemon. And so we did some battles, we did some trades and whatnot, and I got a bunch of weird Pokemon out of that I don't remember about. The only thing I remember is my original red and blue guide. I left there by accident, and when I went to go back and get it, it was gone. So
Uh-oh.
somebody took it. Uh,
Oh
but
yeah,
but
doesn't surprise me.
and I remember, I don't remember if I told my dad that it happened, because Pokemon Yellow came out soon after, and they bought us the official Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow guide, which was essentially the same thing, just added yellow to it. So, and the reason I bring up the guide is I was not allowed to play video games on school nights. That was a thing my mom said that my brother and I weren't allowed to do. But I could read about video games, and I had when I had the red and blue guide, I would read that and read through it, find all the stuff, memorize stuff, and then the red, blue, and yellow guide was the same way. So
Hmm.
I have this weird part of my brain that's the entire first gen of Pokemon, like remembering when they learn attacks, when they evolve, like, where to catch them, certain things. And I can't, if you like, I can't just access it. If something comes up and I have to ask a question, I'm like, I think they evolve at this level, or they learn this move at this level. I have memory in my brain for that, but not for math. So,
Oh
like,
yeah, oh yeah, no, absolutely.
because that was the only thing. I would also look at my Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh and Digimon and stuff like that during the week, but like no video games. My mom was strict on no video games. So even if I was done my homework, I had to look at other things. I'd either watch cartoons slash anime, or I would look through my cards and stuff like that, or through the magazine. We had Nintendo Power as well, so I'd read Nintendo Power. So I just was so obsessed as a kid with Pokemon, especially Gen 1, that I just memorized so much from that game guide. Like again, like I can't tell you something off the top of my head, but if you like quizzed me or I was playing the game and I was like, "Oh, I think," and this happened on my streams of Pokemon Red. I was like, I feel like I got to go downstairs and get the guide because I'm pretty sure this Pokemon learns this move at this level, but I'm not sure. And then I'd do it and it'd be right. I'd be like, "Oh, it does learn the level."
So what
So
I'm hearing is when I finally make that quiz, you are going to dominate if it's Gen 1 related.
if it's Gen 1, there's a big chance that like I will like five head that and be able to figure out the answers off the top of my head, just because like Gen 1 is so ingrained in my mind that like I remember stupid shit like what level does Nidoran learn double kick? If it's yellow, it's level 12, I believe, or 16. I think it's 12.
Hmm.
If it's red and blue, I think it's 42. So just for example, just something that's stupid that I know. Um, or that, Starmie is one of my favorite Gen 1 Pokemon because it can learn Thunderbolt and Surf and Ice Beam and like all these good TM moves. So, and Psychic, which is a really good move, which is one of my favorite moves in Gen 1. Uh, but yeah, no, just weird, disgusting stuff that I remember. I'm like, how do I know this kind of thing? You know what I mean? So, uh,
Do you know the one move in Vaporeon's learn set that it can't actually learn?
was Acid Armor in Gen 1? I feel like it wasn't. You know what?
I don't remember if it was, but that's not the answer.
I happen to have the the official the official Nintendo Power Special Edition Pokemon Yellow, Red, and Blue guide right here. So I can confirm if Acid Armor is listed. I don't think Acid Armor is a move that you can learn in Gen 1. And it is. Okay, I was wrong. What move is it then?
It's Haze
It can learn
because
Haze.
it learns both. No, it learns both Haze. It's either Haze or Mist.
Okay.
I think it's Mist
So
actually
in Pokemon Yellow,
because it learns both of those at the same level.
no. So in Pokemon Yellow, it learns Haze at level 42. In Red and Blue, it learns Haze at 44, and only in Red and Blue it learns Mist at 48. according to the official Nintendo guide, which could be wrong. It is possible it's wrong, but it apparently does learn.
It's not a Prima guide, so I'm less inclined to say it's wrong.
Yeah, like, this is. At first, I thought, oh, it must be Prima. No, it's the official trainer's guide from Nintendo Power. So I'm like, I need to double check that. I don't have a Vaporeon in my game though, so I'd have to. I don't know. It's like, okay, I'm gonna show this in a video sometime, but this thing is held together with like masking tape because I would read this so much, and the pages, the size of the pages are so curled over, like. I loved this is one of my favorite like books when I was a kid, this player's guide, because
It's like me with Hyrule Historia.
yeah, like it's literally held together by tape because I would use it so much. I'm even using it now. Like when I play Pokemon Red, I'm like, let me double check this. Let me just open the book. Even though I can just Google it or go to Cerebi. But I'm like, I might as well use the
It's
book.
more fun to open the book if you have it.
That's the thing. It's more fun to use the book, and I really do like that. So, but no, yeah. So Gen 1, I was like all about. And Gen 2 is my favorite gen. I think we've talked about this before. Specifically, Pokemon, specifically Pokemon Silver is my favorite Pokemon game because it's the one that you can catch Lugia earlier on, and I just like the exclusives better in Silver than I do in Gold. I do need to do another playthrough of Crystal and see how I feel about it because I wasn't huge on Crystal when it came out. My brother bought it, he got it, but I didn't really care, and I only got a copy of it recently, so.
I have a thing to tell you about later.
Sure.
It's Crystal related, but I don't want it to derail this current thing we're talking about.
But yeah, like, I don't know if we painted the picture, but Pokemon was huge when we were kids. Pokemon was huge. And I think that the peak of Pokemon popularity, at least in the like 90s and early 2000s, because it was around the year 2000 when Pokemon Gold and Silver were coming out. Hype had never been bigger for Pokemon than I'd ever seen. Like, that's where we got the Peekaboo rumor. That's where we got the Mew under the truck rumor. All these things, like, I remember a friend had an emulator and had a Japanese version of Pokemon Gold, and I went over to his house and watched him play it, and I was like in awe. I'm like, I need this game. I actually thought, ooh, maybe I could trade some Pokemon, but using the link cable, because I thought the link cable, this was back before I understood computers, and I thought the link cable port was the same as USB or FireWire, and I thought, oh, I could plug this in the back of your computer, we could trade Pokemon. And I'm like, that's not how it works. So, but I remember like Gold and Silver was like Gen 2 was like Pokemania at its hype. You had like so much Pokemon stuff, merch, cards, just the little rumors about Gen 2, the Space World demo, which I do want to play at some point because somebody like modified it so you could play the whole thing with the different Pokemon. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about when I say the Peekaboo rumor, Meryl was originally we didn't know much about the game, so magazines would and places online would post that Meryl was Peekaboo, a secret evolution of Pikachu that makes him a water type. Because the rumor, I believe, was if you get the surfing Pikachu in Pokemon Yellow, which was really hard to get, you had to beat Pokemon Stadium to get it. That's one of the ways to get it anyways. You can evolve that eventually into Peekaboo, and it becomes an electric water type, because there were no electric water types in Gen 1. But obviously we know that's not true. Of course, every Meryl I catch, I do still call Peekaboo because, I mean, like,
as you should.
It was a convincing rumor because it looked close enough to Pikachu that you could think it would actually be an evolution. But yeah, and I also remember them talking about the Poke Gods, stuff like that. I think earlier they said the legendaries in Gen 2 were technically Poke Gods, like Lugia was apparently a Poke God. I heard even rumors that Missingnon was a Poke God. Missingnon, that's a popular trick as well. If you don't know what that is, you can duplicate items by finding a Pokemon that is not in the database by activating a 8-bit glitch from the old man who, has had his coffee, aka finally sobered up, to teach you how to catch Pokemon. And then you could also use that because if you surfed along the bar on Cinnabar Island, it would remember the last location you fought wild Pokemon. So I would all the time. I go to the Safari Zone, leave, go talk to the man, go to Cinnabar Island, and I would just catch Safari Pokemon across that little bar there.
That's a way to do it.
Yeah, they did patch that in yellow though, so you can't do it in yellow. You can only do it in red and blue. And I think yellow you can still do the missing known trick. It's just different. So I just don't know
Correct.
how you do it. Do you know how to do it in yellow or?
I have never done it in yellow. I've only seen it talked about in red and blue.
You can do it in yellow. I just know it's different. Um, but yeah, no, like gold and silver was a huge deal when it came out. My dad was working a better job, and I guess he decided Santa Claus is not going to make the same mistake twice. So for that year for Christmas, my brother and I each got Game Boy Colors. I got a purple one. He again got a yellow one. And we each got a copy of Gold and Silver. And so
There you go.
I remember, okay, so I'm going to have to flash back a little bit to when I got the Super Nintendo from Santa, air quotes. I got up, I was so excited. I got up early and I saw the Super Nintendo. I started setting it up, but I didn't know how to hook up the AV cables because our TV back then didn't have AV. It only had RF, and I didn't know that. And then Dad gets up
Yeah.
at 6:30 in the morning. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dad, Santa brought us a Super Nintendo," and I already had it half set up. He's like, "Go to bed." And I'm like, "But Dad, Super Nintendo." He's like, "Go to bed." And then we wake up the next morning, and I'm like, "See," I was like, "Yeah, Super Nintendo." And then so when we got our Game Boys, our Game Boy Colors with Pokemon. Thank you, by the way, for getting that.
Yep.
I snuck in to my I went out and I saw that Santa, because again, Santa didn't wrap our gifts. I saw that we each got Game Boy Colors. Snuck in my brother's room. I'm like, Brock, Santa brought us Game Boy Colors of Pokemon. Let's go take them downstairs. Because the TV with our Super Nintendo was downstairs in the basement. Because that was kind of a rec room we had. And so we snuck downstairs. I took the Super Nintendo to play Gold or Silver, I think, on the Super Nintendo. My brother took out his Game Boy Color. Took the batteries out of his original Game Boy to put it in the color so he could play it. And lo and behold, 6:30 a.m. Dad comes downstairs. He goes, "What are you two doing out of bed?" We're like, "Dad, Santa brought us Game Boys and Pokemon Gold and Silver." And he's like, "Again?" And he told us to go to bed. And he made us go to bed and had to wait. So yeah, I think somehow my brother snuck his Game Boy into his room too, because we had the little worm lights that you had to use on the Game Boy so you could see them. So he was playing Game Boy in his room, and I think his door was open, and my dad went up to go to the bathroom at 7 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Are you playing Game Boy in bed?" He's like, "No." And then snatched his Game Boy Color away from him.
I would have just not answered and pretended to be asleep.
He opened the door and could see the light. Yeah, there was no getting away from it there. But yeah, no. So
Damn.
we were little bastards. But no, yeah, having Gold and Silver, both of them, was great because we didn't have to trade. Like, we didn't have to wait on the other person to get in the game. I was playing both games at the same time. I was swapping them out because I wanted to trade with myself and stuff. So I was doing the double playthrough thing even back then, guys. Like, not like I do, like I know I do now, but like with the stream file and the not stream file. But I was playing two games at once at the same time then. And so I think that's when to me, like, that was the nice notification.
Wait, did you hear that?
I heard it. I half heard it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think NVIDIA broadcast cut it out. But yeah, no, I was in on Pokemon. And you had said that third gen was what really got you into Pokemon. Like, it really, really got you into it. Can you elaborate a little more about that? Was it because it was new when you got it, or?
Third gen was the generation where I really started to understand how Pokemon worked. And up until that point, I was, like most kids, either using nothing but my starter or catching things that I thought looked cool and whatnot. But, oh, excuse me.
You're excused.
Gen 3 was the point where I had a better grasp of how these things worked. So I had a little bit more of an idea of like team composition, the different types of moves, what the different stats represented, so I had a better idea of what Pokemon could be considered good versus which ones were kind of mid, and about a ways into the third gen life cycle is also when I started doing a little bit of research, doing competitive, and like playing in local events and stuff like
Oh,
that.
really? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything like that, but I think at the point when third gen came out, I was either getting ready to go into high school or in high school. So I
Mhm.
still had my GBA SP and stuff. So I still played Pokemon. But that was first off, is the first time I feel like Pokemon tried to reboot the franchise.
Yeah.
Because you can definitely feel it. Like, of course, older Pokemon were in the game still, but like you could feel it with the way they were doing things. You could even probably call second gen a soft reboot, but it was more like it felt more like an expansion or a sequel.
Yeah, it was
Whereas
definitely more of a sequel slash expansion to Gen 1.
I think the reason they tried to go for that like soft reboot idea with Gen 3 is because, well, it was hard to transfer Pokemon from first and second gen to third because of it was a different Game Boy
Mm-hmm.
at that time. So
Yeah.
there was and it was an 8-bit game to a 16-bit game, stuff like that. So, and I don't dislike third gen. I actually really like third gen, but I don't like it nearly as much as I think I like the first two generations of Pokemon. I This was the first time also where I could start to see like problems I would have with some of the Pokemon games. Like I always knew like there were always things that I questioned like why is that like that? But I think third gen was the first time I questioned it a lot more. There's a specific section and I can't remember exactly where it is off the top of my head, but there's a specific section where you have to do backtracking and they just did not do a very good job with it.
Mm-hmm.
It was also the first games that really like pushed fly away from you, where like you get surf, you get the ability to surf and use strength, and I think I forget what they added. Is dive in? No, that's in fourth gen, isn't it? Is
No,
dive in
that's third.
Is dive in third? Okay.
Yeah, because third gen is so water heavy.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. 7.2 out of 10, too much water, right?
Yeah.
But there was the first time like I was like I felt like I doing backtracking and I said to myself, man, it'd be really nice if I had fly right now, but it was before you got fly. And so
Yeah.
um it only annoyed me a little bit, but like I would get confused on where they wanted me to go a lot of the time. So that is rectified in the remakes, and we'll talk about remakes later, but like I just wanted to mention that. And I think like Pokemon like Gen 3 was the first time they tried to have like a story, like a proper story in Pokemon. Like the other ones did kind of with the rockets, but the main story was becoming the champion. You know what I mean? Collecting the badges, becoming the
Yeah.
champion. Whereas it felt like the first time in third gen, like team, depending on which game you played, I believe it's Team Magma and Team Aqua. Is that right?
Team Magma, Team Aqua, yeah.
Yeah. Have different environmental goals, and their environmental goal ultimately revolves around a legendary Pokemon. This is the first time like a game's really done that. Because
Yeah.
I always thought it was weird that the TV show and the movie emphasized Team Rocket working with Mewtwo, but the games never did. It was just Mewtwo was just a thing that you caught at the end of the games, like as post game content. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until the movie that they built up that lore and that I'm a clone. You know what I mean? Like he's a clone of Mew
Yeah.
or something like that. But like third gen actually felt like they were amping the story up, and I'm gonna say what most people say. Pokemon's an RPG, but it's an RPG where the story don't matter. Because most
For the most
RPGs,
part.
because yeah, for the most part, it got better as time went on, but that was the first time like really hammering in a story into Pokemon. And
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, this is neat. There's a story, but as time went on, I'd be like, feels like it's like dragging on the end half of this game. I get it. They're evil, or they think they're good, and they want to crush the other environmental team. I just like I don't care. Can I get to Pokemon League now?
Time has really shown me that there's like a larger message behind that, but even
Mhm.
before I get into that, I remembered another thing that made third gen hit a lot harder for me, and I think
Sure.
that is the first, like, how do I want to phrase this? This is like the first jump in graphic standard
Mm-hmm.
we see in the Pokemon series, because I have very distinct memories of being like amazed at being able to leave my footprints in sand and seeing my reflection in water, and all of that was just like wild to me.
Oh yeah.
And it remained that way for 2 more gens, because Gen 4 and Gen 5 both were standardized for that sort of art style, and it didn't really feel the need to change anything
Mm-hmm.
until it went to the 3DS.
Yeah, that is one thing
But
I'll say about third gen is it was like like the Super Nintendo is my favorite console of all time, and obviously I was still, even though like I was older, it was still a console I would go back to and play, even though we had newer stuff like GameCube, N64, PS1, stuff like
mhm.
that. So the jump to 16-bit graphics, like that was like that got me, because I was like, this is the type of graphics I like, the style I like, the pixel art. I didn't know what pixel art was back then, but I knew that I liked it the specific way it looked, because and that was one of the things Nintendo touted the GBA being like, it was like having a portable Super Nintendo, and I was like, that sounds great to me. So but yeah, no, that's one thing that really grabbed me about third gen. Is like, finally I get to see these games on at wasn't really modern hardware, but as modern as handhelds were at that time. So
Yeah.
and in a style that I really liked. It also made me confused. It's like, oh, why can't I play this on my Super Game Boy? And it's like, well, because the Game Boy player exists. So because I was like, oh, the Super Nintendo's got similar hardware. These games should totally run on the Super Nintendo, and they're not similar hardware. They just have, similar ways of doing things. But that's me before understanding how tech works, or just understanding how tech works. Um, but that's the thing I really liked about third gen. One thing I will say is the music and the sound in third gen is pretty good, despite the lackluster sound chip on the Game Boy Advanced.
They really made it work.
I was noticing them using the sound channels more. Like every time I think of the wild Pokemon theme in third gen, I feel like there's a dog barking in the background going bork, 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 bork. Like that's what it feels like every time I get into a wild Pokemon battle. I was like, where's that dog? But like and they utilize the sound chip of the Game Boy Advance so well that none of all the music sounds great. Like music in general in Pokemon sounds great, but like when you're the 8-bit systems, you're limited in what you can do. And so even though the GBA sound chip was kind of weak for a lot of stuff, and you can tell it if you play games that are ports from Super Nintendo, because the Super Nintendo had a really nice multi-channel Sony sound chip, like a custom sound chip made for it.
Yeah.
And obviously Sony was a competitor at that point, so they weren't going to do that anymore. So they had to make do with what they had. And there are games that don't sound great on the GBA. There's a lot of games that don't sound great on the GBA, but Pokemon is not one of them. The music and sound is like fantastic. Like nothing's grating. I wouldn't say there's any music I dislike from third gen. I think I like all of it. And a lot of it's still memorable to me. Like, even though there are things about third gen I don't remember until I play the games, like the music is what I just recall being really, really good. And I have to say too, like a lot of the new Pokemon, I know that like there wasn't as many as there was with, say, like second gen, but like, or maybe it felt like there wasn't as many. I don't know, but I loved all the new Pokemon. I thought the designs were cool. I thought
hmm
everything was cool. Yeah, just thinking about it, I'm thinking about like Electrike and like Plusle and Minin, and like I'm thinking about like Poochyena. Like I'm just thinking about Pokemon from third gen. I'm like, I like all of these. It's
Yeah,
hard.
some of my favorite Pokemon are from that gen, including my favorite one of all time. So there you go.
What is your favorite one of all time?
Aggron.
I should have guessed that. Yeah, that whole line, Oran, Larang, Agron, love those
Lairon.
Pokemon. My favorite Pokemon's in third gen too, and that's Blaziken.
Yep.
So like,
The starters in Gen 3 were absolute goats. I remember
mhm,
the Trico line being my favorite starters
mhm,
well into Gen 5 even.
mhm. Yeah, like all the starters from that's the thing too we didn't mention. Like when it comes to like starters in Pokemon, I really like Charmander from the first generation, his whole line. I really like
Yep.
Chikorita and Cyndaquil, their whole line. But in Gen 3, I like all three. Like
Yep.
if I had to pick one that if I had to order them, I'd probably say Chikorita, Mudkip, and it's not Growtile. That's the second form, right?
That's Grovyle you're thinking of. So
Wow.
Trico is the first.
Trico's probably my least, but still, he's a tree guy. He's cool. I love it.
Yeah.
So
Also, base Chikorita enjoyer.
yeah, I love Chikorita. Chikorita's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I've always liked Chikorita. One of the thing I loved about Chikorita is like, oh my god, it's a grass Pokemon that doesn't have a second type as poison. That always ticked me off. Because in the first gen of Pokemon, every grass Pokemon has a second typing, and it's usually poison. So, with the exception of some like Executor, who's psychic. So, yeah, like it's like it was just nice to have Pokemon that had that was a grass type. It wasn't a grass poison. You know what I mean? Or a grass slash whatever. It was just a grass type. That was neat. But I will say, Blaziken's one of my favorite because one of my favorite types is fire. And it's also a fighting type. So it's a mix of two types.
Yeah. And then they continued that trend for 2 more generations.
They sure did. But
Like everybody clowns on that, but like there's a reason they did it, and that's because it worked.
yeah, I know. And by the way, guys, I know we're spending a lot of time talking about third gen, but there's just so much to talk about when it comes to third gen because
Yeah.
it was such an important leap for Pokemon, and it's unfortunate that Pokemania was kind of over. So they didn't they sold all right, but like Pokemon merch at that point it was the cards and it was basically plushies and maybe like toys and stuff, but like it was nowhere near as popular as it was the previous two generations. And I think that's because
Oh yeah, we are talking about a point where the games were still the driving force for the IP.
exactly. And so when I say Pokemania, the Pokemania era was Gen 1 and 2 because that's when Pokemon first came out on the scene and exploded. We're getting into I don't know what you would call this era, but like from Gen 3 I think until Gen 6 is like I don't want to call it the drought, but like it because it wasn't. We still got tons of Pokemon stuff, but like it was
I would call it like the Pokemon Steady area.
it was yeah, it was significantly less popular, but it was still popular enough for the people who cared about it that they were still making games
Yeah.
every year and merch and stuff like that. And third gen I think was the third gen was definitely the start of that. Because and I think like some of the criticisms that people had at the time were really because of limitations like, oh, I can't transfer my old Pokemon like I could between Gen 1 and 2. Well, it's different hardware. They're completely differently programmed games. It's not going to work that way. Stuff like that. Or people, I think like we are a ways away from talking about the Dexit, but
Oh yeah.
Gen 3 was the first time they cut Pokemon that you could actually get. Eventually you could get them with the remakes that came out later, Fire Red and Leaf Green, but they cut a lot of Pokemon that you could obtain at that point because there just was no way to get some of those Pokemon transferred over from previous games. So the data for the Pokemon is still in the game. Like you could still get all 300 whatever Pokemon were I'm pretty sure in Ruby and Sapphire, maybe Emerald, but I know you definitely can in Fire Red and Leaf Green. Like you can get
You
all
could
of them.
definitely hack them in at least.
But the data for the Pokemon are still in the third gen games from previous gens. It's just not all of them made the cut for being able to obtain within the game. So I think the reason they did that is because they knew people would try to find some way to get old Pokemon in, and rather than brick people's games, they just thought, oh, we'll just put the data in there. So, and there are ways to get Pokemon from Gen 1 all the way up to Gen 9. So I'm not going to go into it in this video because there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through, but there is ways to do it. But yeah, I just want to end off. I don't know if you have anything more to say, but I want to end off my part and say that third gen was really good, but it's where I saw the decline start to happen. Is there anything else you wanted to say about third gen before we move on?
Abilities were one of the best things to happen in Pokemon.
Yes, it introduced abilities. I forgot to mention that Gen 2 introduced a better having an item bag instead of a single item screen.
Yeah.
And also equipable items. And breeding. I almost forgot to mention breeding.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff got introduced in Gen 2 and Gen 3
Yeah,
also
now I can
introduced
breed my Pokemon. I mean, what?
And Gen 3 also introduced the contests as well. I
Yeah,
almost forgot to say
I
that.
did love Gen 3. I did love Gen 3 and Gen 4 contests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like while I wasn't a big fan of them, I thought they were cool, and it's funny now thinking about why they put the contest in and took out the, you know, the game corner because gambling.
Mhm.
It's pretty funny that Nintendo of America let gambling be in the first two Pokemon games, and not, and Gen 3 they're like, maybe don't have gambling. Even the remakes kind of have gambling, but it's different. They get like
Yeah.
in the Gen 1 and Gen 2 remakes. Um I don't want to spend a ton of time going over the remakes, but we have to talk about Fire Red and Leaf Green real quick because just like how important it was that those games were. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think people definitely after playing Ruby and Sapphire were like, I miss some of the old Pokemon. Well, good thing that we remade the original game so you could play the Gen 1 games updated. And oh my god, it's like night and day playing the original Gen 1 game and then playing the remakes. Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
It's a night and day even playing those games and playing stuff that's later, but I'll get to that when we get to that. Um, yeah, the remakes just really like made everything that was cool about the original Pokemon, like the original generation of Pokemon, and just made it even better. Like to the point where like I'll still go back and play the original Gen 1 games, but if I don't feel like dealing with the limitations, I could easily play the remakes and get the same satisfaction I would get from playing the original games to the remakes. Um, and I know that you said you started with Yellow. Did you play the remakes
Yeah.
when they came out, or did you play them later?
I played the excuse me. I played them when they came out.
Yeah. And what about you?
I
How
was
did you feel
very
about them?
excited when I saw them announced. I because the magic of Gen 3 was still kind of there for me, it felt like it's important for me to say that when I first started playing Pokemon, I wasn't retaining much information because I was still pretty young. I was just kind of like seeing and doing. And that's one of the reasons why Gen 3 was so important for me because it was a point where my brain was starting to retain information better.
Mm-hmm.
So the remakes were a weird mix of old and new for me because I was playing this game that I had essentially already played with a filter over it of the new gen that I thought was amazing, but at the same time it still felt kind of different because my memories of Gen 1 were not very strong, so I would remember tiny bits and pieces, but not enough to where it felt old.
Mm-hmm. Were there things that you like noticed? You're like, oh, I remember that kind of thing, or
Yeah, it was a lot of I remember this, and then a couple minutes, like a half hour later, I get to a point and I'm like, oh man, I forgot about that. That's right. So it was a lot of back and forth with like things that stood out to me in Yellow, and then small things I forgot that ended up becoming really neat once I saw them again in the remakes.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think they remakes were important because one, I think it was Nintendo and like Game Freak trying to say, trying to like reinvigorate the Pokemon brand. Not to say that they didn't with Ruby and Sapphire, but you could tell that they didn't sell or didn't do as much numbers as they previously thought they were going to do. And I think the remakes it felt like it kind of came out of remember Pokemon? You know what I mean? Like to all the people who had played since the original games. And also to introduce the original games to people who had never gotten a chance to play them. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was like a very much of like this is the like the like super HD edition of like one of my favorite games of all time. So for me, it was really exciting to play through those games again and see what had changed. And just little quality of life things like Charmander learning Metal Claw. Like, that was an easy thing that they did to fix a problem that the original Gen 1 games had. Because if you pick Charmander in the original Gen 1 games, you're at a disadvantage till maybe the 4th gen or the 4th gym.
Yeah.
So, now that being said, playing through the first couple gyms again in red for my streams. I don't think Brock's Pokemon know Rock Throw, or they just don't ever use it because they easily
They don't know any rock moves, and their physical defense is way high, but their special defense is beans. So Charmander actually does a pretty decent job of handling them.
The other thing too is you got to remember in Gen 1, special is one stat. So
That's right.
If their special defense sucks, their special attack sucks too. So
Yep.
but I noticed that and I'm like, I'm having an easy time with these despite being rock types and none of my attacks being very effective. Also, I found that there was Brock's Pokemon in the first gen were susceptible to burn really easily because I noticed that I was burning his Onix and he would just keep using full heal and then I'd burn it again and he would use full.
Yeah, Gen 1 had some wackiness to certain mechanics, and some of them you look at and you're like, how the fuck did this happen? Others you look at and you're like, that's really funny, actually.
Dual typing in Gen 1 is a coin flip.
Yep.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, will this be super effective or not very effective? I don't know. And then in Gen 2, they started to figure it out. And old tactics that I remembered from the first games did not work in Gen 2 because I was like, oh, they updated the games. Oops. And then by the time they got to Gen 3, Pokemon felt more stable. I think the 8-bit Pokemons, like, they're great games, but they feel, even at the time, I'm like, these feel old. Like, they feel like, even though they're brand new games, they felt like they were old games, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
Like they were like held
there was
together.
a datedness to them.
They were held together with chewing gum and Scotch tape in some spaces. And third gen was the first time I was like, okay, these games are well programmed. I'm sure they're gonna have issues, some weird glitches, but they're well programmed. They're not under these limitations that 8-bit has, which is 256 bits, by the way. Which is why you could have things like the missing known trick and stuff like that, and cloning Pokemon and stuff like that. And so third gen was the first time it felt like these were like they had much more to work with, and they utilized that. Whereas, I mean, the original Pokemon games took like 6-7 years to develop because they kept running out of money. That's why the Game Freak had to make games like Yoshi and other things because they kept running out of fucking money. And Nintendo kept saying, we can't just keep giving you money. You have to do stuff for us. And so, yeah, that's why Game Freak. And then Game Freak made games for the Genesis, like Pulse Man. Like, they needed money to finish Pokemon. Like, Pokemon could have bankrupted their company. And instead, it made them one of the most profitable game companies out there. With one of the biggest franchises. But anyways, the Gen 1 remakes, I love them. They're great. This is at a crossroads for me because when 4th gen came out, I was in college. So I was already accustomed to things like the Wii, the 360. Like that's where my era of gaming was. Now, 360 is my least favorite console of that generation. But like I was in that era where I was like, oh, I'm like, okay, Nintendo has this and that and whatnot. So and that's also started where my nostalgia stuff started happening for older stuff.
Yeah.
I really got into Nintendo stuff because I didn't own an NES. My friend across the street owned one. And then my friend Corey was the rich friend who had everything. So we went to his house to play Genesis. We went to my house to play Super Nintendo and N64. I went to my friend Scott's house, who was across the road, to play NES because he had the NES. So, and his family wasn't as well off as ours, and so that's why he still had NES. But games for NES were cheap back then when we were getting Super Nintendo and stuff. Anyways, but I remember that's when nostalgia started because there was shortly before like the Wii came out, a friend of mine who had just moved in on my street had an NES, and my brother and I had just recently, ironically enough, my aunt had recently moved, and her kids, one of my cousins gave me this How to Win at Nintendo book, and I remember I haven't talked about this, but as you guys can probably tell from my username, I'm a big fan of Mega Man, but I never finished Mega Man 2 because I didn't own it.
No way.
And so this kid who had moved in on our street had an NES, and he's like, I got Mega Man 2. And I'm like, well, I've got a book that tells you how to win at Mega Man 2. And so this is great. This is the first time this ever happened. Me and all the other neighbor kids got together at this kid's house, and we all played Mega Man 2 together until we beat it. That in like one sitting. Like we would take turns and stuff.
That's genuinely awesome. I love that.
And so my because the Wii was really came out at the perfect time for me, because that's when YouTube started, AVGN, Screw Attack, video game like retro game nostalgia for like NES, Super Nintendo, stuff like that. And I had just, and that's when I started collecting. And so for me, that was where I was. I was in the playing stuff that I missed, reliving my childhood at like age 17, 18, because that's where I was, because I wanted to. One thing I never said is when we got the N64, my mom said we couldn't have too many game systems. So we had to sell our Super Nintendo and our games. Luckily, we were smart enough and we gave some of them to my grandmother that we really wanted to keep. But we regretted it. Like after we were done with the N64, we wanted to go back and play Super Nintendo games. And my brother were like, we shouldn't have done this. We should have fought and told mom that we were going to keep it. But we had to. She didn't want too many game systems in the house. Of course, by the time we got a PlayStation, she didn't care anymore. But because we got the N64 first, and then we got the PS1. So, but yeah, I remember this was also the era where I started collecting. My brother had bought a mint condition Super Nintendo from an old lady a couple streets over. So my brother had a paper route when he was younger, and this lady had a garage sale, and she bought this Super Nintendo, like boxed, complete in box. She maybe played a golf game with it a couple of times, and it had Super Mario and a couple of golf games with it. And my brother bought this from her with some of his money that he had saved from being a paper boy. And he's like, look what I have.
Yep.
I was like, what? I was like, that's a Super Nintendo? And then it's so funny. The day after we got it, my dad said, you know, one of the rental places we used to rent from probably still has all their games. You want to go there and see if we can offer them money for their games? And I was like, yes. We went there, and unfortunately, we were a day late because the guy told us somebody came in here yesterday. He's like, somebody came in here yesterday, offered me like $300, $400 for all my old Nintendo stuff, and I sold it to him. And he had rare stuff like Mega Man X3 and shit like that. So I was like, and Earthbound. So I was like, it wasn't rare. It wasn't rare then, but that
boy
did sting.
Howdy, is it now?
That did sting, because that's how I played. That's how I played Mario Paint. That's how I played through a lot of games that I rented, like Mega Man 7. And so, anyways, the whole reason I'm getting to this is that that's where I was when 4th Gen came out. I only got 4th Gen and a DS Lite because my friend Corey, rich friend Corey, bought it, didn't want it anymore. And he's like, I'm like, how much for your DS and your Pokemon and whatever? He's like, $60. I'm like, okay, cool. I gave him $60 that I had saved as a broke college student. And I was still working at the time. I was working a fast food job then, and I bought the DS and the Pokemon Pearl off them. Now, my mother, I was still living at home. My mother still did not want us playing video games on school nights, because even though I was older and I was in college, and she kind of would like, she kind of was like, yeah, it'd be okay. She didn't want my brother seeing that and him being like, hey, that's not fair. So I had to abide by that rule even when I was in college living at home. However, I would watch anime and stuff after school on my dad's big screen TV in the basement. And they had a leather couch that happened to have enough cushion space for me to hide something. So I would play Pokemon Pearl while watching anime and stuff, and the door was right behind me. So if they were coming in, I could hear them open the door, and I quickly go up, and they never caught me.
Beautiful.
My brother, and same thing if my brother came in the room, because I didn't want him to see it and then get me in trouble and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I played Pokemon casually on Pokemon Pearl casually on the couch, or I guess this would be a love seat because it's a 2-seater, while watching anime for my college days. And so that's how I played Pokemon. That's how I played the fourth gen of Pokemon. But I recall, okay, and this is I think the part you've been waiting for. I recall feeling different about it. I had some things that to me didn't feel right, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I think realizing now it was because I was learning to be more critical of things, to not just be baseless on things. And so, and I will say this, I want to let people know there's a video I've been working on for a little while that I'm rewriting, called, the working title is I Don't Like the Fourth Generation of Pokemon, and here's why. And so I'm replaying Platinum right now because I plan to. My cousin actually wants to buy my copy of Platinum. He wants all the Pokemon games complete in box, and I don't have any like nostalgia or anything for that game. I just remembered playing it. I bought Platinum because someone told me when I said I didn't really like fourth gen. They're like, "Oh, play Platinum. It fixes everything." It didn't fix everything for me. So I only played it because somebody said, give it another chance. And so I'm playing it right now to say, one more try. And I do have some notes, but I'm not going to spoil too much. But I have, Eski, I hate to say this, but like, whenever I play other Pokemon games or whatever, when I'm doing other stuff, like watching a movie, show, whatever, no problem. It's Pokemon. I can play it whatever. Or if I need a little bit of time, sit down and just play a Pokemon game, it's fine. I am dreading playing this game every time I have a chance to. I remember how I said one of the things I said about Gen 3 I really liked was well, maybe I didn't fully explain it, but one of the things about Gen 3 I really liked was the flow of combat. It was fast, didn't waste, it got the point across. Some strategies would slow things down, but that's Pokemon for you. Try fighting somebody with Wrap or Bind in the first generation of Pokemon while you're paralyzed, by the way. That's a death tool. I've gotten so annoyed by the speed of battle in 4th gen that I've done something that I have never done in Pokemon. I turned the battle animations off.
No, that is a big complaint that a lot of people have, even in Platinum. Like, whoever told you that Platinum fixes everything,
not everything. They said
because
that was them exaggerating. They say it fixed a lot of problems. When I say it fixes everything, but you go ahead.
The speed of 4th gen and honestly even 5th gen to a degree, because the DS Pokemon games are just painfully slow.
5th gen's a little faster, I'll say. It's 5th gen is fast enough that I can tolerate it.
Yeah, but no, Gen 4 is hella slow.
And so one thing I do want to say is I don't hate 4th gen. I just don't like it as much. And so like when people talk about, when I got into the era of talking to people on Discord, like my friend Big Red and other people, and they would talk about Pokemon and how 4th gen is their favorite, I would be like, why? Because
I mean, I would say that too, honestly, because like as much as big of a Pokemon fan as I am, and how I can, I guess, understand how 4th gen could be someone's favorite, it still confuses me because there's just so much better.
And I just like, I don't want to just be bashing on 4th gen here, because I have a video where I'm going to talk about all my grievances, and I'm honest to God in this playthrough trying to give it another chance. And when I told Big Red that I was doing this, he said to me, it sounds like you're coming into it with an open mind. Obviously make notes of things that you don't like, but try to give some things the benefit of the doubt, because I didn't want to go into this playthrough, and I didn't go into this playthrough being like, I'm going to dislike this. I want to give it a chance. I want to give it a
Mm-hmm.
chance to impress me, because again, we won't. It's down the line, but the remakes of fourth gen, I love those. And apparently, people who like fourth gen do not like those remakes, or don't like them nearly as much as the original games. And so,
We'll get into that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm this weirdo who's on the other side, who's like, I didn't like these games, but to the point where like I have only finished a Gen 4 game one time all the way through, and that's Pokemon. My first playthrough of Pokemon Pearl. The remakes I've beaten twice. So that right there probably tells you whatever they did made me like Diamond and Pearl. Not that I hate them. I just did not like them. And I'm playing through the game now, and I have notes. I'm not going to say everything here, and I don't want to be negative, but I'm going to try to get through the game as best I can. Platinum, I mean, before I have to give it off, because I have a whole thing of notes, and I have 2 badges. They're not all negative notes, but I have a lot to say, and I'm only 2 badges into the game. So yeah, I will probably just turn this segment over to you, because you probably like 4th gen better than I do. So why don't you tell us about your experiences with 4th gen, since I told you mine?
My experiences with 4th gen starts with a scam.
A scam?
A scam.
Ooh.
Not actually. It doesn't start with it, but I had Diamond, and it was your box standard Pokemon adventure for me. I enjoyed it because I enjoy pretty much most things Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty easy for me. I remember liking Cynthia a lot.
Who doesn't?
A lot.
Who doesn't?
A lot. A lot.
Checks your computer history.
I was always not a lot of Cynthia in there. You're gonna find a lot of Kamen Rider Jean for different reasons than what you may think.
Oh God.
I was looking up her design history.
Oh, I see.
I was literally, because all right, quick tangent. I was watching Revice, and I was just like thinking about the suit designs, and I'm like, man, I wonder what the process is for like making these suits and coming up with how they look like, because they're always so cool. So I was like doing a huge deep dive on Kamen Rider costume designs, and I ended up doing a lot of reading on Jean's design specifically because I really like it. It might be one of my favorites in Revice.
It's really cool.
Anyway, I was always a grass type starter purist, so it didn't matter to me how much I liked the other starters. I would always do a first playthrough with the grass starter, and Torterra became like one of the top 5 Pokemon in general for me.
Torterra's a beast.
Yes, it's slow. Gen 4 does this thing where, and Gen 5 to a degree does this thing where a lot of the Pokemon you find are really slow, but a lot of them don't have this other stats that like make up for that. But Torterra is slow, defensive, and it has decent HP. So even though my battles weren't going quickly with Torterra, or at least with the Turtwig family in the beginning, I didn't have a whole lot of problems just because it was so tanky. And like I said before, this was the point in time where I was taking actual team comp into consideration. And it just so happened that we also have one of, if not the best regional birds. And also God himself, Bidoof.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Arceus.
The Doofinator. I mean, yeah, we got Arceus too, but Bidoof is right there. Don't let him hear you say that too loudly. But no, the Starly family, another one of my favorites. Gave you a really early game electric type in the form of Shinx and its family. So I have a lot of fond memories of just like those three being my core team for a fair bit of the game, just because they were all solid options that I got early on. And I remember finding Cyrus really funny because I didn't quite understand what he meant by create a new world. So I was like, bro, how are you going to create a new world if you destroy this one? There will be no world to create.
Don't mention Cyrus like that around us. Pipkin and Pippa might be listening.
Does Pippa really like Cyrus?
She has a huge crush on Cyrus.
Pippa, no.
That's the blue-haired guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her taste in men is as toxic as she is.
To the point where somebody, as you probably know, Cyrus is voiced by Kerbifer in Pokemon Masters, where Kerbifer invaded her stream. Well, say like I was trying to go to sleep, but people keep telling me that you have this thing for Cyrus, and she was on the spot, and yeah, like just look up Pippa Cyrus, and you'll like she like goes like full volume like rage love,
full volume.
Like I love him. There are so many clips.
Oh boy.
Like Pippa's already unhinged, but like even more unhinged than normal. But yeah. Anyways, Cyrus.
I really liked. Yeah, I think my favorite thing about Gen 4 was how much lore about the Pokemon world they started to put in. I think that was really like it. We kind of got the seeds of that with the Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza mythos.
Yeah,
but once you start getting into like the beings of emotion and the creation myth and Dialga and Palkia and just how much history and lore Sinnoh has in it, that was when like, and this was about the point where in my life where I was doing a lot of drawing and like story writing, like early story writing and like forming the foundations of a lot of things I would go on to start to like really be working on today. So my writer brain was going like, ooh, I really like this. Can I get more? Nom, 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 nom. I started shoveling it in my mouth like cereal. So the Celestic Ruins were really great. The books in the Canalave library I really enjoyed. And then I remember two like super core memories I have of Gen 4 are spending way too fucking long in the underground mining. Because I loved secret bases in Gen 3. That's something else I should have brought up. Is that secret bases I think were one of my favorite features ever. And I was a little disappointed that they weren't in the overworld of Gen 4, but the fact that you could still make them in the underground was good enough for me at the time.
I watched you stream the remakes underground. Like you would just do it and not say anything for like a long time and be like, you okay? You're like, yeah.
It's just like me playing Power Wash. I just get into it. Just get so into it. But my opinions on the remake on the underground remake will come when we start talking about those remakes. But that, and then the other core memory is feeling incredibly accomplished and like I truly genuinely earned it when I finally beat Cynthia, because up until then I had never really struggled against the Elite Four or the champions before. But Cynthia wiped the floor with me 6 times.
Yeah, she's no joke.
She's tough.
One thing I did want to comment on is I think Pokemon, like we were talking about how Pokemon's story had been evolving, especially fourth gen is
Mm,
an important point. I think like obviously started more with third gen and then fourth gen and then fifth gen, but I don't think they really like the story really like became like as important to the whole grand scheme until sixth gen.
mm-hmm.
And the seeds of that are in third and fourth gen because they third gen was kind of like the start of trying to make a story, even though most of it was back ended to near the end of the game. Whereas fourth gen, it's gradually introduced to you. Like you get introduced to like just replaying. I forgot like you get introduced to like the detective in like the second city you go to, for example.
Yep.
Like and Team Galactic. I think I always mix up Galactic and Plasma. I always think Plasma's in fourth gen and
Yeah,
Galactic's
me
in
too.
fifth, but it's Galactic in fourth, Plasma in fifth. So, and you get introduced to Galactic pretty early. I mean, it's not that you don't get introduced to Rocket early in Gen 1 and Gen 2. Like, they're in Mount Moon. But they don't play a part of the story until you get to
Yeah.
Celadon. So, but, like, they start playing a part in the story almost immediately in fourth gen. And so that's them actually spacing out their time with with the villain faction because the Rockets, they're memorable. Hell, I'm wearing a Rocket outfit on my model right now. But like you know when you're going to have time against the Rockets.
Yeah.
The Celadon City in first gen, Goldenrod near the end of the game in second gen. And it wasn't and like again they were really doing kind of the same thing in third gen to where they were like that fourth gen did, but they didn't introduce them until you were a good chunk through the game. And again, it's if you play third gen again, the back half is very loaded with stuff for Team Magma and Aqua, but there isn't a lot at the
Yeah.
start. And I think one positive I will say about fourth gen is they started that shit off very early. So they got you used to the villain faction and that they
Yeah,
were there.
Galactic is a threat throughout.
It's not like Rockets where they're here now and they're taking over the Saffron Tower or Silphco or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, they're here. Or Goldenrod Tower. Sorry, that's the one I meant. The Rockets are here. They're causing mischief. But these guys, you know who they are throughout the game. So that's one thing I definitely would say. And I will say, just playing first gen again, is like or fourth gen again is the difficulty. I didn't expect that
Yeah.
at first. Like the game will hurt you if you let it. It's the Nikki Jake I will kill you meme basically. So
That's something that a lot of people say about Platinum is that through some small changes in team compositions and level ranges and experience gaining and whatnot, the game is a fair bit more challenging, and a lot of people really like that.
I will say one thing I will say is my platinum playthrough that I'm doing right now. It's just a casual playthrough, like I said. I'm trying to
Yeah.
use only fourth gen Pokemon. Like I'm trying to stick to fourth gen. So my team's not very big right now, but I've gotten a few that have like, and I've also, even though the fire starter is not my favorite, I'm picking it because fourth gen is a huge
I
problem.
was about to say
where there's like 2 fire lines that you can get until
it
you
is
get
the fire starter and the Ponyta line.
That's it. So if you don't
Nope.
pick the fire starter, you do not get a fire Pokemon until nearly halfway through the game. So, so even Piplup's my favorite, but because I need a fire Pokemon and firefighting's a good combination, I picked the monkey. And he's strong. He's fine. I just don't
Monkey.
I just don't like the other 2 starters nearly as much as like Piplup. Piplup's my favorite of those. So I think this is the first time since the first gen where I have a definitive favorite. Where I don't have multiple favorites. So, but Monkey is fine. I'm playing through the game with him. You know, he learns some really good moves, which is good. Evolves really fast too. He evolves at level 14 like Totodile does.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh my god, we're getting raided. Is that false?
That's false.
Falsetto just
Oh
rated
my
with 20
god.
reinforcements.
Wow, false. Thank you for rating during the podcast. We're talking about Pokemon. We're on Gen 4. How is everybody doing? How was your stream? What did you do? Oh, you did the
The
beast,
beast inside.
Listen, we all have two beasts inside of us, and both of them are homosexual. But false, thank you for the raid. We're having a discussion about Pokemon. Yeah, do you guys remember that time that false was on the podcast? Actually, my first VTuber guest for the Hunter Base podcast. Good Games just started today.
Hell
Nice. Yeah.
I think that's how I found out that y'all knew each other, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, that is. I remember that. Your icon on Twitch is still that art of, I'm pretty sure, you and false, but it's zoomed in on your face.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that art.
But getting back to the 4th gen of Pokemon, just to recap for those of you who just came here, we're talking about our experience with Pokemon and where Pokemon is now and where it's going to go in the future. Yeah, no, we're talking about 4th gen. I don't really care for it, and Eski likes it, so we're having our discussion about it.
I think it's all right.
I'm replaying Platinum right now as my as just casually, because I do want to do a video talking about 4th gen, and I want to give it another chance before I write my first thoughts. So but yeah, we're talking about that, and we were just talking about how the story of Pokemon really started to kick off with Pokemon games having deeper stories with 4th gen. It kind of started in 3rd gen, but it really started in 4th gen, and we were talking about how Team Galactic, I almost said Plasma again because I always mix them up, really gets introduced early on, and that you know who they are, whereas the Rockets, they just kind of show up and do stuff, even though I love the Rockets. And Magma and Aqua are just like, we'll be at the end of the game. We'll be the reason you have to get a legendary. So, is 3rd gen did 4th gen do the same thing where they want like the legendary was important to the plot like it was in 3rd gen? I'm trying to remember. I know that it is in 5th.
So, Dialga and Palkia are important to Cyrus's end goal.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the same thing as in 3rd gen. Because it kind of is the same in 5th gen, to be honest. I don't know. Okay. I just realized something. There's a pattern here. If you look at the enemy factions from 3rd gen up until 6th gen, they all either want to take over the world or kill everyone and rebuild the world. It's one of those two.
So I'm going to lean back into 3rd gen for a bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Archie and Maxie, I have talked about this with friends when we talk about like which teams are the most quote unquote evil. Archie and Maxie, I always, or rather, I never put up very high because while the end results of the things they do are not great, that's not what they set out to do. For one,
that's fair.
If you look at them, Archie is a misguided environmentalist who wants more space for Pokemon habitats to grow, and Maxie is a misguided businessman who wants more land for humanity to grow, expand, and make more things like factories, businesses, and things like that. So he wants to expand industry.
And I think when Archie gets the realizes what they've done, they're like, oh no, this is not what I wanted. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like immediately regrets their actions.
Both of them think that they have the ability to control the legendary that they get a hold of, and they don't. So when I mentioned learning more about Gen 3 and understanding it, it is a story about hubris and the balance between nature and industry that needs to be maintained, or because if one gets out of control, everything goes out of whack.
Exactly. exactly. And that is one unique thing I'll say about the third gen villains is they actually realize what they have done
Yeah.
immediately, and as far as I'm concerned, they're trying to fix it after doing it. So you really like when it comes to Cyrus, he's actually just kind of a maniac. So
It's funny because is Cyrus is a depressed uh a depressed introvert in his late 20s, early 30s, because the funniest thing is, despite the fact that what he does is really messed up, in Platinum, once he gets hold of Giratina and like falls into the distortion world, he's fine because there is nobody to bother him, and he's just like, I'm on my own now. I think I'll just chill here, and abandons everything.
yeah, really doesn't like people.
Yeah. I before we move on, I do want to go back to the very first thing I said, where Gen 4 began with a scam, because I was in high school at this point. I think high school.
Yeah, you would have
No,
been in high
I
school because I
wasn't.
was in, or you weren't? Okay, I was in college.
I was in early high school, I think.
Middle school, maybe?
No, it was early high school. It had to be because of Gen 5 reasons that I'll go over.
Okay.
Wait, no. It could have been. I keep thinking about generations and not game releases, because I keep forgetting that there was a Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Which we will get to.
What I'm getting at, yeah, what I'm getting at is I wasn't able to play the Gen 5 games because I had just graduated and didn't have a job and didn't have my own money to get those games. So I was like, oh man, if that's the case, then Diamond Pearl Platinum must have been right before I graduated. But no, it wasn't, because there was Heart Gold and Soul Silver before that.
Okay.
So this was definitely like late junior high, early high school, where I managed to. I can't remember what I did with my. No, I still had Diamond, and there was a kid on the bus who wanted to trade me something, and I don't remember what he wanted to trade me, but it was one of my games and some money for his copy of Pearl. And dirty liar that I was, I had a bag of tabs from aluminum soda cans, and I had convinced him that a bunch of kids in the school had this little market that we were doing, where instead of using real money, we traded each other soda tabs. And so I gave him my game, I gave him the bag of soda tabs, got Pearl, and never spoke to him again.
Oh my god. Oh,
In
Eski,
fairness, he never confronted me about it either, so
you were a devil even back then.
yeah.
So, I don't know what else there is to say about fourth gen, but I have a really, really interesting story about fifth gen. But before we get into that, we should talk about the remakes briefly. Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Now, the year I got it was also a big year for a convention that I usually go to called Anime North, which would later become a Street Pass thing. The Poker Walker craze made getting to things at the con hard, because this year friends of mine from the States were visiting to go to the con with us. And my one friend, who is a Final Fantasy 14 streamer now, as we would walk, because our hotel was a bit of a walk from the con. You know the Family Guy butt scratcher?
Butt scratcher?
He would, like, every person he passed, he saw a Pokewalker, he'd be like, Pokewalker! And so we'd have to stop And some of my friends were in heavy cosplay would stop, do the Pokewalker thing. We all would have to do it because we'd all like, oh, okay,
Oh, hell
if he's
yeah.
going to stop them, I'm going to do it. The Pokewalker, which by the way was was scientifically proven to be one of the most accurate step calculators of the era.
It is insane just how good it is.
Yeah. Was a really cool feature that I almost never use when I replay those games because I don't really need to anymore. But it was cool. You got like a little Tamagotchi of your Pokemon. You take them with you. It's like you're going on an adventure with your Pokemon. It was a really cool idea. They eventually did that with the Pokeball Plus for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but we'll get to that eventually. But the Pokewalker was the main thing that I remember. I remember that Anime North, and I think also Anime. I can't remember if I went to Anime Next that year. I think it was just Anime North. Anyways, I just remember all the interactions of people I met through the Pokewalker. Like it was a very, very interesting year. And my last time and I never really had a huge problem with the remakes. I remember them not being as good as the original games, in my opinion, but Pokemon Silver is my favorite Pokemon game. Like you've got to do a lot to impress me. But doing within the last couple of years, I did a Let's Play of Pokemon Soul Silver. And that Let's Play is one of my longest to date. Just because, one, Gold and Silver are long games. The second half is basically, you could call it post-game, but I always considered the Kanto stuff not post-game. I considered that the second half of the game.
Yeah.
And you guys heard my complaints about 4th gen. Those same speed problems and other things are all in there because it uses the 4th gen engine. And so recently replaying a multi-year playthrough of this Let's Play, I was getting more and more and more, annoyed with how long this game was taking me to finish. There were literally, you can hear parts in the Let's Play be like, oh my God, is this over yet? And they're for remakes of games I really like. So I knew the story. I knew where I was going. It wouldn't be hard for me to find things. The game didn't do anything to annoy me to as far as I know, to interrupt me like it would have or anything. But man, like when I'm hankering to play the original, which is probably just as slow, but way more entertaining in my opinion, there's something going on here. Now, they are good remakes. Yeah. I'll say this. They are good remakes. I just don't like them over the originals. And that's where the difference between the first gen remakes, which and I say take it or leave it. I mean, I could play either or and have a great time. When it comes to Gen 2, I have to play the originals. I can't do the remakes anymore. They're just the rust from Gen 4, in my opinion, hovers over those remakes everywhere. And again, they are well-programmed games. They're pretty games. They're nice. I don't hate them. I just do not like them. So I don't have a lot of nice things to say about the remakes other than the Pokewalker was very important. So, you said you couldn't get your hands on 5th gen and you got the remakes instead, or what do you mean by
I was not able to get either of them on release. So my only experience with either of them is me playing Soul Silver on stream now, and I have just recently I'm on my way to fight Claire.
Okay, so you're a bit through the game, and
yeah,
and what is it? Which legendary is it you keep running into? Is it Raikou?
Suicune, or no, Raikou. It's Raikou.
Yeah. How many times has that happened?
Twice now.
I have a clip of your original one. It's great.
Yeah.
You being like, "Excuse me."
beat Morty and Ekrutik. Got the Surf HM. Teach it to my good old Quagsire and start to surf up that little lake at the north in at the top
Like
part
a
of
rage?
Ekrotik, and there's just Raiko in the water. Like, bro, you're not even Suicune. What are you doing?
They can appear anywhere. That's the great thing about them. I guess we didn't
Yep.
really talk about the legendary dogs, but I mean, it's you can run into them randomly, except in Crystal version where you get Suicune at a certain point.
Yeah, and Heart Gold Soul Silver does the same thing where Suicune shows up at specific points.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I will say there is quality of life differences that are good in the remakes. Um, I'm not as it's not as in my head as because you're playing it right now, and I'm just reminiscing mostly. Is there anything you've noticed that you wanted to comment on that you've that is either been, Flork, thank you for the subscribe.
Florky Steve just
Appreciate it.
subscribed
Is there
for
anything
58 months.
is there anything like you've noticed just playing the remakes? You're like, oh, they did that. You know what I mean? Compared to the originals.
The Ruins of Alph is a bit more easier to navigate, and I really appreciate that.
Did you
But-
did the you did the special event that's in that's only in that you can only get by doing, hacking it in, I assume, right? I feel like I watched you do that.
Sinjo, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching you do that, and I thought you were playing like platinum, but no, you were still playing Soul Silver.
Yep.
I was like, oh right, this event works that way. Anyway, sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead.
There are some changes that the remakes make that I really enjoy. I love the following feature. That's really cute.
Yeah, that's great.
The berry farm is very helpful. I haven't been utilizing it, and I really need to change that.
I heard that following
But-
feature to get it to work was like a pain in the ass for the programmers. Like,
Yeah.
because they had to make new sprites for all the Pokemon that they can move in all of those directions. And then on top of that,
Yeah.
some of them are like huge. So,
A little bit.
yeah.
I remember Chikorita's being very silly and cute because if it's facing forward, it just looks like a little green lump, and I love it. But something I should say, there's a YouTuber, I don't know if you've heard of Smith Plays,
Probably from you.
who, yeah, they have a team of people who have made several Pokemon ROM hacks, and they're called the Legacy Collection.
Yes, we've talked about this.
The first one they did was Crystal Legacy. And I would definitely say if you have a hankering to go back and play Gen 2, I would say give
You good?
give Crystal Legacy a try.
Okay.
I had my brain just did a doopy.
A doopy.
Give Crystal Legacy a try because it does a lot of quality of life changes. It makes some edits to small changes in dialogue to make things a bit more sound a bit better. Changes some fights, like that point in like the late middle where you can go fight Chuck, Jasmine, or Price in pretty much any order you want to.
Oh, I never did that.
If you do that. Yeah, the intended order is to, if I remember correctly, is to go fight Chuck, get Fly, go to Mahogany and beat Price, and then go fight Jasmine, which is what I did. But you can kind of do them in any order, but the levels don't change and things don't scale. That's one of the things that they changed to where
Oh, really? Interesting.
levels and stuff actually scale at that part.
Cool. Oh, this sounds neat. I might check this out. Or I
Yeah,
could do the opposite and play Vietnamese Crystal with its terrible English translation. I am
that-
Elf Monster.
That's like the Duang of Pokemon games.
It is. It actually is.
I love it.
It's great. Anyways, going back to our Gold, Soul, Silver. I know you're still playing through them, so obviously there's
Hmm.
going to be stuff that you're still going to be experiencing. But it sounds like most of the stuff that you noticed was like quality of life stuff that you're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and again, that's what a remake is supposed to do. It's supposed to make, it's supposed to give you that original feel, but also enhance things. Um, I just because it's me, and because of my how I feel about fourth gen, I just can't these days get over it. Because I even tried to play Soul Silver casually recently, and I was like,
Hmm.
I can't do this. Like I just would rather. I was doing it because I wanted to play Gen 2, and the battery in my Pokemon Silver game is like dead. And I was like, I just
Oh
want to
yeah,
play it again.
same.
And so I was like, and I didn't want to emulate. I just wanted to play it in my DS or whatever. I was like, I'm just not feeling this. I'm just not, this is the game. This is all the stuff I remember, but it's not presented in the way that I remember. And I think that was my thing. Um, and again, I'm not saying they're bad games. I personally just would not choose the remakes over the originals if the batteries didn't die all the time, because that's a huge problem with Gen 2, because the day night cycle and the clock kill the battery.
Oh yeah,
My
absolutely.
my Pokemon Red battery still works. My Pokemon Gold and Silver batteries I've replaced like 4 times already. It sucks. But yeah, so um I don't think there's anything more I have to say about the remakes. Do you have anything more to say about them?
Not really.
Okay. Well, let's move on to fifth gen, because I have an interesting story about fifth gen.
Hmm.
So I was going to college for the second time when fifth gen came out. Just so people understand, I finished college in 2007, had a degree I couldn't use in anything, got a tech job, got fired from it a month later, couldn't go back to my old job, had a little era where I was a NEET for about 6 months, got a new job with another tech company. They laid me off after a year and a month, and then there's this thing called second career in Canada, where if you got laid off, the government would pay for up to 2 years of college for you. And so I happened to pick a 2 year program, which was called computer engineering. So, yes, I am a computer engineer, technically. Um, so, and I can say that because that's what my diploma says. So I won't get in trouble. But during that period where I was going to college for the second time, that's when the games came out in Japan. And I remember a friend of mine. His name is he's I don't know if he still goes by this username, but his name was Chimera Yuri. He's a friend of mine in the voice acting and emerging community. Um, he had just bought in both of them, and he really wanted me to watch the show, which will not be named because I don't want to talk about it. He said, "I will give you one of these Pokemon games if you stream yourself reacting to this show." And as a broke college student, I thought to myself, I can play Pokemon now, or I can hope I have a job and play Pokemon when it comes out in English. Also, fifth gen was the last game, were the last games in the series that were released in Japan first. Every other game release has been from sixth gen onward has been same date for everybody. And so I knew that the DS was region free. So I said, okay. And on a website that no longer exists, I streamed myself watching all 12 episodes of this anime that I did not want to watch and was disturbed by. And people wonder why things don't phase me on the internet anymore. That's one of those things. Boku no no
Ah.
no. It was not. No, it was worse. And don't try to guess it, please. Nobody try to guess it because I don't want to talk about this anime. So I did it, and my friend's like,
I say
"Wow,
this purely as a bit, but clearly you watch the English dub of Ghost Stories.
no, that would be awesome." But I did not want to watch this anime. He's like, and he was like one of those people who's like, "Oh, well, maybe you'll change your mind because it's actually there's like some backstory for one of the characters and whatever." It did not change my mind. It made me more upset about the show that I was watching, that it tried to pull this halfway through. And anyways, long story short, I did what he said. Uh, and tarnish my own reputation. Yeah, exactly. So we'd be hurting both of us right now. I watched this show, and my friend's like, okay, didn't think you'd actually do it, because he'd been bugging me to watch the show for years, and I just was vehemently against it because of the content in it. That's all I'm gonna say. It's not, and by the way, it's not hentai.
Damn, I was gonna say night shift nurses.
That's the first hentai I ever saw, dude.
Yeah,
That's how you know I'm. That's how you know I'm fucked up.
That's why you're a nurse.
That's not why, but that's how you know I'm fucked up, because that show is fucked up. Fucked up, especially if it's your first porn series you're watching. Yeah. Anyways,
Bible Black.
I mean,
Anyway.
Bubba Black was most people's first one. That was my realizing that I like that. Night Shift Nurses was has a lot of, anyways, has a lot of kinks in it that a 13, 14-year-old boy should not be introduced to. Anyways, so I did it. He's like, wow, I can't believe you actually did it. I'm gonna ship you this game, and I can't remember if it's white or black. It's one of the two. But 5th gen, my first experience was all in Japanese. I couldn't understand a word of what was being said. That was my first time playing through an entire game in a language I didn't understand. Like I beat that game before the English versions came out almost a year later. So I played through it, and I noticed things. Like, first off, this was this Nintendo Game Freak, whoever is in control, almost doing another soft reboot for Pokemon, because one of the things that I really like about Gen 5 is they give you 150 new Pokemon, and they're the ones you use until you get the National Dex. That they throw you in. So all I had was my knowledge of Pokemon types and moves and stuff like that, and that's it. I couldn't use my knowledge of actual like Pokemon, like when they evolve, whatever. I had to go into this, like, and I was using Bulbapedia constantly because this was before Google Translate was really good. So I'd be using Bulbapedia, had Bulbapedia open while I was playing the game, so I could figure things out, because they had all the information. Like, before the games even came out, they had everything. I think Cerebi did too. And that's when I started using Cerebi regularly, because they had all the information on all the Pokemon when they learned moves. I don't know how they get this information, but they had it like within like days of the game releasing. They had this information. It's crazy how quickly they get this stuff. Anyways, first thing I noticed, there's all new Pokemon, and I thought that was really cool. It's almost like I'm starting Pokemon over again. And keep in mind, I thought I was done with Pokemon at this point. Like, when I played 4th Gen, I'm like, well, that was okay, but it wasn't really fantastic to me. Maybe I'm just done with Pokemon. Maybe I don't need to be part of this anymore. You know what I mean? I felt like maybe I'd grown out of it. Because, as a college student, 17, 18-year-old, I'm still playing a game series that I played when I was like 8 or 9. Which, I was in my nostalgia era, doesn't really matter, but I still, like, part of me was just like, maybe I'm over Pokemon. You know what I mean? And so, but 5th Gen kind of brought me back in, because 1, the new Pokemon, 2, level scaling. And what I mean level scaling is not in as, the game is scaled to your level. A thing that my brother would used to do is, we had beaten Pokemon Stadium. And when you beat Pokemon Stadium, you can play the 1st Gen Pokemon games at what's called Dodrio speed. Basically, it's at a 3x speed modifier that's almost as fast as emulators now. So you could just run through the original Pokemon games like super fast. One thing my brother would do is, when he was bored, he would start up a game of Pokemon Blue, pick Squirtle, go to that one patch of grass in Viridian City, and just stay there on Dodrio speed till he had a Blastoise. Like, that's just a thing he did. He just liked grinding in games, so that's what he did. But you can imagine, at 3x speed, it was, it went very quickly. And so, one thing I remember is that, like, every Pokemon, based on their level, will give you a certain amount of experience no matter what. It will always give you the same. In 5th Gen, it's now not only the opponent Pokemon's level that matters, it's your Pokemon level that matters. So you can't do what my brother did in 5th gen, I mean, Squirrel's not available, but say he picked a starter and just gotten us an area and trained up.
Let's just
Because,
say Oshawott. Yeah.
yeah, the game will know that you are trying to do that and will say, oh, this level 2 thing that you're beating all the time, oh, you're level 10, you get 2 experience. Oh, you're level 11 now, you get 1 experience. So the game knows when you're trying to grind like that. Now, it's not to say that the games don't give you opportunities to grind. There's double battle grass was something that was introduced that I thought was really cool too in Gen 5. In Gen 4, there were certain sections where you did what I would call the it's time to grind time, like the forest early on in 4th Gen, where they give you a person who you take along with you, and all the battles are double battles, and you get all of the experience. Yeah. I tried to spend as little time in my current playthrough in there as possible, and I still ended up with half my Pokemon being level 20 when I got out of there. But in Gen 5, the double battle sections are a place where you can go and say, not only can you catch stronger Pokemon or encounter stronger Pokemon, because it's darker grass, I guess, than the regular grass.
Yeah.
It's also meant for helping the grinding problem that the game introduces. So you can actually you go in there, and usually typically what it is in most areas where it happens, you will run into, say there's a green grass, which is the normal grass, you would run into whatever Pokemon's in that area. The darker grass, you have a higher chance of finding an evolution, which give way more experience of one of those Pokemon that's in that area. So that was the game's way of saying, okay, well, we've made this issue where like you can't just grind on low level stuff to get up. Well, why don't we make grinding challenging, where you actually have to beat stronger Pokemon to get the rewards that you would want? And because they're double battles, you're leveling up 2 Pokemon at once. So I thought that was really cool. I was like, this is a cool way to like make it so like if I feel like I need to grind, like I'm not doing well and I feel like I need to grind, I can easily go to almost any area that has a dark patch of grass. I think it's within like the first few areas that they start introducing that, like after the first few areas. I can't remember off the top of my head, that you can just go in and grind and solve the problem that you're having with leveling. Because another thing that I really liked about 5th gen, I mentioned in 4th gen that the game is pretty difficult because it thinks it knows where you're at in terms of like levels. And again, it's problem to fix that, where if you don't have the perfect Pokemon team and you can't get through the battles easily, is what I mentioned before. Stuff like the let's grind here now sections, which I think is like a Band-Aid approach. In Gen 5, the combat is still very hard because the game is leveled to where it thinks that you're going to be, it's just going to be stronger than you currently are. And so you have to use strategies like type advantage. You have to use things like, using moves like baton pass and stuff like that. And by the way, I'm doing all this in Japanese the first time I played the game. So I barely know what my Pokemon's moves are. I constantly have to be looking at it, like I said, a guide on Cerebi or Bulbapedia, because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But it feels like manageable difficulty because the game gives you that option to say, hey, you could fight through this, and you'll be hurt, but you'll get through it if you try hard enough. Or, hey, we've got these little patches of grass that will give you stronger Pokemon that are harder to defeat, but you'll get a reward of more experience points by doing your grinding in these areas. Now, you can still do grinding the old-fashioned way, but you're going to run into the same problem that I said before. You're going to run into a wall where you're not going to get much experience because you're killing the same weak things all the time. So I think that's a really cool idea to balance the difficulty of saying, like, instead of saying, hey, you should grind here now because the next part of the game, when you go up this mountain, everybody's going to be 10 levels higher than you, so you should grind right now, okay? Is better than it's not as good as say, I see you're struggling. Well, here's a patch of grass that has really strong Pokemon, and if you work hard enough, you'll be strong enough, and you can pass through this a little easier. It feels like whenever people, I can't remember if it's Yuji Horii or who it was. from the Dragon Quest programmer said that I want the reason he thinks grinding is important in video games is because I want you to feel like you're accomplished by doing this menial work. Like you're going to try, you're going to work hard, and then you're going to get rewarded by being able to go through this next part of the game easier because you worked hard. And in Gen 5, it actually feels like when you challenge yourself, you actually feel like you're rewarded. You're rewarded by your hard work. And that's one of the other things I love about 5th gen is because, yeah, nobody likes grinding in video games. Maybe some people, like my roommate, do like grinding in video games. But if you're going to make me grind, at least make it an enjoyable experience, not a do it because the game says you should, and if you don't, you're stupid, which is how it feels in 4th gen. The last thing I'll say about 5th gen before I pass it over to you is I don't think the story is very good, but I see what they were trying to do. Especially in the first 5th gen games. The second 5th gen games is actually worse, I think. Because Black and White 2 is all about where's my sister's Pearlian? That's the story. That's the plot of Black and White 2. But in Black and White, it's not good, but I see what they were trying to do with N and Team Plasma and all that stuff. And I'm going to throw it over to you because I feel like I've been yapping about 5th gen long enough, and I want to hear your perspective because I know that you have your own opinions on it.
It's a good thing that you did a lot of yapping because, like I said, I didn't get a chance to play it myself. So my only real experience with Gen 5 is Chugga Conroy's playthrough of the 2 games, and then just the opinions I was able to form.
Which, by the way, watching Let's Plays from people is valid. Like that's my first experience. Chugga was my first experience with Earthbound 0 and Earthbound. So, but yeah.
I still plan on trying to play them myself.
But do you have anything you want to say about Black and White, or just based on your experience through someone else?
It is me knowing as much as I do about Pokemon. It is really fun to see how they managed to fill the roles of older gen Pokemon while creating new ones, because you can definitely see a lot of parallels in Gen 5 Pokemon that you can in older ones. Like the Boldor family is clearly our Geodudes, Sock and Throw are Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee.
Bert and Ernie.
Yeah. The what the fuck's it called? Timber. The Timber family is our Machop line and stuff like that. My biggest comment is probably going to be on the story as well. I do not share the same feelings that you do. I think the story is all right and it's neat, but I am in the camp that I feel like they really missed some opportunities, because Pokemon has always been a game about the bond between you and your Pokemon. And while that doesn't really get emphasized, or rather the level of emphasis on that is different between the games, Gen 5 is, or Black and White 1 is where it is really pushed the most. And I feel like the fact that the Pokemon themselves, other than N being like, oh, your Pokemon is saying insert thing here, or I hear the voice of your Pokemon don't really have a voice. And I think including things like a following mechanic, since they had already done that in a previous entry, or some inclusion of Pokemons in certain scenes, like when Team Plasma is giving, almost like Galactic, when Team Plasma is giving their speech in the city and N gets introduced for the first time, having some Pokemon intervene and, like, obviously they can't argue, but, like, visually disagree with what Team Plasma is saying. I feel like it would go a long way to showing that Pokemon are not just objects in this universe, but they are living, breathing creatures that people are coexisting with and not just using. And I feel like the fact that they didn't try and do any of that was a real missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the reason I said what I said about the story of Black and White was really because it was throughout the games, but I always felt like, I just always felt like this, like N was this character. And again, I seem to be on the minority on this because a lot of people like N. I never liked N. I thought he was like this pretentious guy. Like, why do you think you know what my Pokemon about my Pokemon better than I do? Like, what is that? What is that supposed to say about me as a like as their like friend? It's like, yeah, okay. The Pokemon games don't really give you much interaction until later ones like
Yeah,
I can't remember if it's sixth gen or I can't remember when you start petting them.
six gen is when it
Sixth gen.
starts.
Yeah, and sixth gen and a lot in eighth gen because eighth gen really amps that up because you can have like you can friggin' go camping with your Pokemon, which I think is fucking cool. Um, but like, but the reason people like Pokemon the way it is and why they have favorites and stuff like that is because this is a journey. You're going on a journey with these like digital pets technically. Um, and they become friends and they become companions and stuff like that because you remember things you did. Oh, I remember that my team got steamrolled by Whitney's Miltank several times because that's the first big wall of Gen 2. I remember, getting to Mount Silver and facing off against Red, which is supposed to
Yep.
be a version of us from the previous generation. We have to fight a version of ourselves with a different team of Pokemon and see what he had in his playthrough. I honestly think it would have been cool if there was some way you could connect the games and it would take your team from the previous game. But I know that wouldn't have been doable. I think that's cool. So even though the game doesn't straight up tell you these little bits and bytes of data, are more than that, you feel it by playing the games. And so who is this person here to say what my Pokemon are feeling when I should know what my Pokemon are feeling? I'm playing the game with them. I'm going on this journey with them. Who are you to decide what they say? And that's why I thought he was full of shit. Because I was like, you don't actually know what my Pokemon
That's
think
the
about.
entire point of the game.
Yeah. I'm like, you don't actually know what my Pokemon are talking about. Like, I know my Pokemon.
Yeah, that's the entire point of the game is you trying to show N that trainers have a strong bond with their Pokemon that he doesn't realize.
Because Team Plasma's whole thing is about Pokemon, like trainers getting rid of their Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because they see it, well, at least N sees it, and the people who follow him see it as slavery, and it's not. It's yes, you catch Pokemon and they come with you, but like if the Pokemon doesn't get along with you or it's not something you vibe with, like you're not going to get along, and that's
And
why you have the option of
the
releasing.
implication is that catching is consensual, and it is a confirmation that the Pokemon respects you enough after a battle to join you.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, even though they don't do this for gameplay reasons, in lore, a Pokemon will just not accept being caught in a ball if it doesn't want to be caught.
and just to add on to that, when you run into a wild Pokemon, they know the risk going in that if they lose, they could either one, faint, or two, be captured and be part of and go on this journey with this person. But they have to be into it. I know the TV show does things differently. Like a lot of Pokemon that Ash gets, they want to be, part of his team
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I think that like, and even with the love system that was introduced in second gen, some Pokemon don't evolve unless they love you enough. So
Yeah.
you have to build a relationship with them. And so like, and I think N's redemption is good, but I just think in general, like the story of Black and White is kind of like, it's just not as good, I think, as previous games. I don't think they really hit the story being important to Pokemon until 6th gen. I think that's really where they got their stride with it, because the plot of the 6th gen games, and I'm feeling it again replaying because I'm almost done Pokemon ZA, I think.
Hell yeah.
I'm being put back in that spot I was when I first played 6th gen. And I was like, oh yes, this stuff is like, all this is like, bad stuff happened. There's a reason why Team Flare doesn't exist. Or, well, I don't want to go into spoilers. But like and that's why like the story of the 6th gen games is so important. And I was like, this is finally where Pokemon's story makes sense. And it makes the story is definitely important go from 6th gen onward. I think the story is very important to those games, especially in 9th gen. As much as I don't like those games, I respect the story. It makes the plot, it's super important to the game. But yeah, I love pretty much everything about Black and White, except maybe the story. That's the only thing that I think is a misstep. But Black and White was the game that got me back into Pokemon, because after 4th gen, after not enjoying it as much and thinking I'm over Pokemon, it brought me back in. And the sequels, I'm just going to briefly talk about the sequels because they're pretty similar. The sequels, instead of getting a third version like you do in most Pokemon games, the sequels, we got full on sequels with where old characters come back, new characters are in. But do you remember I don't know if you were paying attention to Pokemon at the time, but I started using a site called JE Fusion for tokusatsu stuff. And they also covered stuff like Japanese games, and they really covered Pokemon stuff. I remember an article they published about I don't know if you call this a controversy, but something that was noticed about some promotional material about Pokemon Black and White 2. I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, but and the promotional material for the protagonist, which, by the way, in every Pokemon game up from Crystal onwards, you could become either a male or female protagonist. It was only Gen 1 and Gold and Silver that you couldn't. You could only be Red or Ash or whatever. So they showed off the protagonist, and I guess there was a misprint in or a mistranslation, because
I remember this. Yes.
So if you read the profiles of the Pokemon in Japanese a certain way, they made sense. One character's male, one character's female. If you read it another way, the female character were read as male. And so the internet took that and turned the female protagonist into like an early trans icon. So, and I played up on that. I didn't really know what being trans meant at that time, but I was like, this is my character. She's, not necessarily female, not necessarily male. Maybe, maybe it was my first look into, maybe it was my egg awakening into being gender fluid because I didn't really know what that meant back then. But like, I don't know. This was early, like, time for me thinking of like, maybe I'm not really, maybe I'm not fully male. Maybe I'm something else. So I remember I would have to hide the fact that I liked feminine stuff, like anime, for example. Like I really like Sailor Moon and Tokyo Mew Mew and stuff like that. But I kind of kept that hidden. That was a me thing, because I thought that I would be ostracized by people or whatever for saying that I liked quote unquote girly stuff. And so it wasn't until, in the 2010s that I started like opening that more up. And it wasn't until 2020 where I came out as gender fluid. So I feel like that was my first awakening or whatever, or being aware of what, being trans was, even though I didn't, people weren't using that term in the spaces I was in. So I didn't understand it. And I had a friend who was trans, but I didn't understand what that meant. So this was early on. This is before I met my friend Jeff, who is a trans man and was an open book and said I could ask any question I wanted, because the educational system did not teach us about that. So, but yeah, I just remembered identifying with the female trainer a lot because of that in Black and White 2. And so I will only play as her in Black and White 2. Plus, I think the male trainer's hat is stupid. So
I know his hat is stupid and his whole design is stupid.
he's pretty
Fucking
dumb.
mop head looking ass.
Yeah, he's pretty dumb. If I did a playthrough of Black and White 2 as him, I'd just call him Dumbo. And be like, I am man, I play poker, man. But Black and White 2 was the answer to, like, if you didn't like Black and White 1 because of the changes, well, we're going to give you some more Pokemon that are, from the national decks early on that you can catch. And we're going to, we're not going to make the story so heavy-handed. The main plot running is your rival's sister's Pearlian. Which I'm like, okay, I might have said the story for Black and White was not great. But Black and White 2 stories worse. So, and I realized doing my Let's Play, because I'm still Let's Playing Black and White 2 right now. I got to a person who says, hey, I stole this Pearlian off some girl. And I'm like, that's the guy. What? And then the rival just ignores it. And I'm like, that's the dude. It's just a random trainer you fight from Team Plasma. Who says that? I'm like, that's the guy. Let's go tell him that's the guy. And he's like, I still can't find my sister's Pearlian. I'm like, I literally just fought the guy who had it. But I think that Black and White 2 made changes that were both good and bad, I'd say. I liked that it reused the areas from the first games. Without like making it unfamiliar, but they changed things to make it so that like you didn't feel like you were just replaying the same game again, which I liked. And I think the only thing I think is really like kind of like a real misstep other than the story thing there is I think that it feels easier because there's older Pokemon in it, and I feel like maybe the difficulty was also scaled back a little bit because, well, I have learned from talking with other people that people did not like the difficulty of Black and White. And they did not like that they couldn't use their favorite Pokemon from the past 4 games.
I call those people's weenies.
Yeah, and this is where I get into those arguments where like, I think 5th gen is better than 4th gen for these reasons. And people say, you're dumb. Or try to tell me like, that doesn't make it better by limiting your choice. And I'm like, limiting choice makes things better sometimes. You have to sometimes get outside of your box. And and Black and White forced me to get out of my comfort zone with Pokemon. 1, it was in a different language for me because I played in Japanese first. And 2, I couldn't use any of my previous favorite Pokemon. I had to get used to the new ones. Like the game forces you to get used to them. Every other Pokemon game introduce you to the new Pokemon early, but then they introduce other Pokemon from previous games eventually. Like Gold and Silver does it almost immediately. You can start catching Rattatas and like Bellsprouts very early on. So, but that's what I liked about Black and White is that it like, it felt like a brand new journey, and that the only things you could take with you was the knowledge that you had. And then Black and White 2 was them pretty much saying, you can just have whatever you want. I don't think it was a misstep, but it certainly was a step back, I think, from the previous games. Did you ever play Black and White 2? Or is this the same idea with Black and White? So 5th gen, you're pretty much,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm yapping quite a bit here, but like, I don't want to make this a long thing, but I do like Black and White 2. I just think they're not as good as Black and White. They're a step back in my opinion. If you didn't like Black and White, you'll probably like Black and White 2 though, because it does make changes that I think appease to people. It felt like they changed it to appease to people who didn't like Black and White. Because again, Black and White didn't make people really interested in Pokemon again yet. Just the hardcore people who were still playing Pokemon like us. But the masses didn't get into it. So I wanted to ask you something. We're just over 2 hours into this podcast. Do we want to stop here and then maybe come back maybe next week? Or not next week, because I can't next week, but at a later time. Because we could be here for hours. So
Yeah, we could. I'd be down for that, actually.
Okay. Is there anything you want to say about 5th gen before we do a wrap up?
Let protagonists date more.
Oh my god, just wait till we talk about 6th gen. 6th gen is the first game is the first games in the series where if you pick the female character, you might be gay.
Yancey and Curtis are two of my favorite characters to ever come out of Pokemon games. And even though we learn and we know next to nothing about them, I still love them.
That's what's great. There's a character in 7th gen who was very gender ambiguous, and I only found out what gender they were by looking it up. So, like Pokemon, like if Pokemon unintentionally making the Black and White 2 female protagonist a trans icon, they definitely played off of that going forward with other characters, as you'll see over time.
Just wait till we get to Gen 9.
Oh my god. The wacky designs in Gen 9. Okay, I'm not a big fan of Gen 9, but I love the characters. I love the characters. Yeah. I think they're great. Especially Demona. She wants to battle all the time. Nemona, sorry, I said Demona. My bad. Names are hard. And I can't wait till we talk about Gen 8. And I could talk about my favorite Pokemon character.
Oh boy.
But we'll get to that. So yeah, we're gonna cut off here. We're gonna leave you guys on a cliffhanger, and then we're gonna come back. Not next week, because next Saturday is my roommate's birthday, and I will not be streaming that day. But we'll come back at some point to talk about more Pokemon stuff. Probably, if not that weekend, maybe the weekend after. I don't know. We've still got a few weeks until Yakuza Kiwami 3 comes out. We need to kill time. So, but anyways, is there anything you want to say before we start wrapping up?
I farted and a poopy almost slipped out.
You said that at the start of the stream.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, you know what to do, but in case you don't, I'm going to tell you right now. You should go all follow this man, demon person, who is totally not a Pokatuber, but might be at some point. Go check out Eski there.
Help.
Help. I'm being turned into a Pokatuber. Before we go, anything you want to promote or say or whatever? No?
No. I keep saying I'm gonna do this and this and this, and then I end up not being able to for one reason or another.
Do I need to start just forcing you to do things?
Maybe that might be necessary.
Hey, Eski, did you do that thing you said you were gonna do? Are you doing it now?
Finished his errands yet?
Exactly.
Finished his errands yet? You're getting ready for stream? Are you getting ready for stream? You're gonna stream today, right?
Until you get tired of me. You're like, Zero, fuck off. Leave me alone.
Hey, okay, how's your progress on that quiz? How's that quiz coming along? You do any more art? You get your questions?
Eski, I'm not a mirror.
Damn.
Can I do that with you? I'm not kidding. Soda, finish editing all those clips of me that you said you were going to edit. Do that. Sure. Do that. Do that thing. Anyways. That's probably going to wrap it up for the podcast, guys. Thank you all for stopping by. Get ready for our second half of our Pokemon discussion, where we talk about 6th gen and where Pokemon and our guesses, our theories on where Pokemon is going to go for its 30th anniversary, because it's coming up. And maybe if we don't get to the podcast before the big Pokemon stream thing happens, we'll just discuss what happened. I don't know. We talked about 5 generations of Pokemon, and it took us 2 hours. So
yeah.
So hopefully we haven't even gotten to the big turning point for Pokemon yet. It's coming. It's coming. So anyways.
And so am I. Wait.
Damn. This is twitch.tv or youtube.com. I can't believe you've done this. Okay, guys. That's going to be it for the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching. Patreons and Hunting Club get to see this early. The VOD for this will be disabled by tomorrow, so it is available for early access people. But if you want to catch it, you can catch it there. It will be on my YouTube channel, Zeromaster Reviews. You can find that YouTube channel here. I'm going to find somebody to raid. Do you have a suggestion by chance, Eski? Or should I just go?
Miyu's live, Nebi Neko's live, my friend Chain Cat is live. If you want to toss some views at a friend of mine.
Sure. Can you DM me their link or whatever?
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap things up, guys.
They're so fluffy.
You're fluffy.
I don't have any fur.
What do you call that tail?
Titan. It's a hard shell.
You're a hard shell. You're a hard nut to crack sometimes. You know that?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, okay. They have a very fluffy tail.
Yeah.
Very fluffy. Ooh, I like that. They're doing some Hollow Knight. Okay, we are going to raid Chain Cat. But thank you guys for coming to watch/listen to the podcast. We will see you again very soon to chat, yap more about Pokemon. Because as you can see, we can say so much more.
So much.
All right, guys. I'm going to go do this raid. We're going to go to the end screen. Thank you for watching, listening. I'll see you on the next Hunter Base podcast. Bye for now.
Right.
People can't hear us, by the way. Oh. They can hear me.
Excellent.
Never mind, they can hear me. Oops. Like, subscribe.
Don't shit yourself.